your costs to be primarily variable. We want very few fixed costs because variable costs are associated with sales that we can derive. So if we need help with transaction management, if we need help with marketing, we want those costs to be variable in nature because then we can measure them, we can cut them, we can add them, and they're nimble. When we have a bunch of fixed costs, and unless you hit some pinnacle, and then the fixed cost makes sense because you have a consistent stream of business. But for the most part, in any business models where costs are variable versus fixed are generally better businesses. And we're blessed in real estate that we can have a very variable cost business model and endure expenses based on our need, both operationally and promotionally. So I would ask you every time you're spending a penny, how am I going to get the greatest level of return on this investment? And is it measurable? And I think that's basically what Ben said far more eloquently than I did, but I just wanted to highlight it because I thought it was so brilliant.
And Kathy, that's a little why I answered your question the way I did about like, do you need to rush out and get a CPA and start to align yourself with these professionals that come at a cost? Is there'll be a time you earn your way to needing those, but I think for month 1 and 2 and 10 and 12, I'd rather you spend your money on writing people notes and getting the business. You're going to need the professional structures at some point, but priority for today is, do people like me and trust me and think I'm good at this? And do they know what my character is? And so I'd spend your dollars on that, not on professionals to provide guidance and counsel on things. Not that those things aren't important, but even my accountant said to me when I asked him some of these questions, he said, look, Ben, most realtors fail and there's a good chance you don't make anything out of yourself. So we're going to do nothing until you prove it that you can make it in the business. And now we joke about how little faith he had in me, but he was right. Like I didn't need to spend on anything professional. I just needed to build a real estate business, which looking back, I now know I could have done at 54 cents a piece writing people notes. So do that stuff first, add the professionals and the services as you need them. Because anyway, I don't want to repeat the answer I just gave. I'll stick with it. What other questions?
Questions, you guys. This is your part of this is asking questions, remember? So
I don't know if
go ahead.
I don't know if people have questions about expenses specifically. This was not in the video, but I do keep real track of the expenses and categories and what I spend. Some people will have questions of how much do you spend on this or that. So I don't know if that triggers any questions, but I have plenty of data on what my expenses are and what percentages of the whole they are. If any of that perspective is helpful, I could speak to something like that.
Why don't you speak to budgets, Ben?
Sure.
The importance of
budgets. Yeah, people have asked me if I have a business budget, and I always tell them I do not tell myself every month what I'm supposed to spend or how much I can or how little I can spend, which I do with my personal income. We say we're going to spend this much on our groceries and we're not going to go over that because we know we have to eat and we just want to try to limit ourselves. I've never made a budget in real estate because I don't want to not send 10 more notes that really should be sent out because 10 people had babies and so they really deserve a note congratulating them, but I've already spent my stamp budget for the month. I don't want to limit my ability to go do good things for others, which costs a little money. So that's why I've always had a hard time telling myself, you can only spend $100 on stamps a month, because I might want to spend 105 for good reason. Though I am very conservative in the things that I spend. And like Tom said, if you're going to spend $1, there should be a purpose for it. And as I go through all my expenses, most of these things are not fixed. Like I'm not just paying money every month to something or to someone. But I do say, I can tell in this month I did a lot more Popeyes because that category I've spent more in it, or delivering moving boxes, or this is the month I bought the t-shirts I was giving out to my friends at the gym. So I don't tell myself to go spend only this amount, but I do track it. And I guess that's more important is I can tell you to the penny exactly what I've spent in each category. And I won't tell you, but I know the income it produced for what those dollars were. And I'm spending minute amount compared to what the income was. And so I think I'm on the right side of things to spend way less to make way more for it. And as long as that formula maintains itself, then I think I'm doing it the right way.
Business budget versus personal budget, which one of them should you do first?
Oh, I think personally, I mean, you got to have food and pay your house payment, but you could stop spending money on real estate and write notes for 50 cents a piece. I've already said that once, but like you could literally crank down your real estate costs to nothing if you weren't bringing in an income, but you can't crank your personal life down to totally nothing because you do have to eat and maintain your heat. So I think the home expenses are more important. It's just an opinion though.
And I think that's right. I think you have to inspect what you expect. So what I always say is, when we do business planning sessions, every single transaction should have a profit and loss statement. You should be evaluating exactly how much time you've spent, just like a lawyer, right? We need to get a return on our time. Now people go, oh my God, Tom, I'm never going to do that. It's awful. It's awful. You can estimate, okay, right? But okay, I showed 3 houses. It took me 2.5 hours. You can write that down. It's not going to kill you. Okay, I had 10 phone calls at 15 minutes a phone call. You can write that down. And then I gave, I'm allocating, I'm going to do 10 units a year. I'm allocating, I've got my promotional expenditures that I'm spending on notes and calls and Popeyes and coffees. I love coffees too, right? It's $10. Somebody said if you had $1,000, non-COVID, obviously, this is non-COVID thoughts. But if you had $1,000, how would you spend it? And I've always said I would have 100 coffees. I would spend 100. I would have 100 coffees at $10 a piece, and I would spend each of those hours trying to build somebody else's business every time I was with them. And I'll guarantee if you build those businesses for those people, you won't be able to hold all the referrals you're getting back because people want to do business with people that are providing business for them. So that's the way I would do it. But every deal should have a P&L. Every single transaction should have a return on your time, the expenditures you have in it. If you had to buy a home warranty, that goes in it. And then you need to amortize how many deals you do and take your expenditures that are fixed costs and allocate them over each of those deals so that you have a real understanding. And one of the reasons that I want people to do this, one of the fundamental reasons I want people to do this is you're going to find in today's market, your return on time is going to be demonstrably better served on listings. So I'm going back to that conversation. And I know people are like, gosh, it's so intimidating to me. I don't know if I can list a house. I just started. I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it takes a hell of a lot more know-how to put a buyer in a house than it does to list a house for sale. A hell of a lot more. And there's a lot more that can go wrong putting a buyer in a house. So any opportunity you have to list a house, take it. We're here to help. There's a zillion people in your corner that are ready and willing and able to help. Push the listing opportunities, take advantage of them. Normally, if it's a 6% listing, by the way, you're getting blackjack every time. It's time and a half. You're getting time and a half on that listing. And I understand that it's easier to get buyers at the beginning, and I'm not telling you not to take the buyers. We want to take it all. But if you can highlight a strategy based on your sphere that will afford you the opportunity, or if you're willing to, write just listed, write just sold notes, even if you don't have the listing, say 213 Main Street sold for this, this, and this, and demonstrate your value to a neighborhood you live in or you live in proximity to, the listings is where it's at today. It just is. And there's no articulate or clever way to say it. It's just that simple. So I would just highlight that point.
I was looking at my expenses just as Tom was talking, because one question I will get a lot is how much do you spend on advertising or whatever? And there's plenty of expenses that are grouped into advertising. Like when I have a listing, I have to pay for the photos. And if I have 40 listings, I'll have photos. So like the more homes I sell, some of those things go up, but those are not expenses that generate business for me. Those are just the cost of doing the business. And so I was just looking at what I have, this client care category, which is Popeyes and gifts and client events and meals with clients and mailings and postcards and handwritten notes and things. I don't know if this is interesting to you, but it was about $12,000. So if I can go back to, I know what I made, and it was definitely sufficient. It cost me about $12,000 in actual expenses that made an impact in people's lives, is all it took. And so to me, I think people presume, well, the person that spends $5,000 a month on Zillow or some advertising expense, that's their way of generating business. That's $50,000 a year. I spent about $12,000 doing nice things for others that generated the 100 sales. So to
Yeah,
me,
so
like
that's the key, right,
$12,000
Ben? So sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
that's the key. So excuse me for interrupting, but that's so important. So that 12,000 on that 100, now break that down. So for every sale that Ben generated, if my math's correct, that's what? What's 12,000 times, what's it, 100, it's $120 per sale?
We'll find out.
Well, based on, if you did 100 sales, Ben did 100 sales last year.
Yeah.
$12,000.
So that's
Yeah.
100.
Yeah.
So think about that from a business development standpoint. Now, think about that from a lead generation platform perspective, about what you would pay per lead to generate it. If you were going to look at averages of a realtor.com, a Zillow, OpCity, take all those platforms, and let me tell you, it is going to be tenfold $120, tenfold. So from a cost effectiveness standpoint, so if you were to buy a Zillow platform or something like that, you would be at 12, most people, unless you're highly outperforming it, if you're at a 3 or 4% conversion rate, you're going to be at $1,200 per conversion in many, many instances. The average would be. Now there's people that could maybe get it down to 400 or 500, but ain't nobody getting it down to 120, ladies and gentlemen. I'll just tell you that right now. So you can see how efficient working by relationship and working by referral is. And oh, by the way, that's not a small sample. That's not, oh, but he only sold 12 houses or only sold 6 houses. That's 100 houses, 100, which I could never do. So hats off to you, Ben. But I think that needs to be highlighted and how efficient that was.
Ben, do you know what your hourly, what your value is hourly?
No, because I don't know when I stop working, but not in a bad way that
Yeah.
leaves me not having a personal life. This is another question. How many hours do you work a week? And I always tell people, when I wake up, I start, and when I go to bed, I stop. And in between, I have all the fun in the world I intend to have, which is very true. And the math on that's hard, because when I go to the gym and I'm working out, someone might say, I got to save for a down payment. I think I'm 2 years out. Like, what's closing costs? Well, it's $7,000. So if I was keeping track on, am I working or am I working out? I can't tell when the clock starts and stops. All I know is I work the entirety of the day, and I also have all the fun I'm supposed to have, and all the exercise I'm supposed to do, and the coffee I'm supposed to drink, and the dog walks I should have. And at the end of the year, I had the greatest year I've ever had personally for fun and adventure, and the greatest year in real estate. So the life balance was totally there. But I can't do the math on that because I'm never not working, but I'm also never not having a ton of fun. So hard to find the value there.
I'll tell you, if you're the best of the best, you're making $200 an hour. That's what the best of the best in real estate makes in Omaha, Nebraska. $200.
And the reason why I'm even asking this question, and I want it to be thought about, is because when you are at the point where every agent gets, where should I hire an assistant? Should I not hire an assistant? Should I have a showing agent? Should I have a buying agent? What you're actually going to be comparing when you get it to what you need it to be is, what is my time worth? What is the value of my time? And you can, $120 a transaction in marketing is amazing, but what is actually the value of the time? When I'm on the phone with one of my clients, or I'm in person talking with one of my clients, that's a $200 an hour kind of value to me of my time. But if I am chasing some something that I hate doing, updating my referral maker or doing something like that I can pay somebody else to do, I would rather hold that space open for the time that's worth $200 an hour. So at some point you can actually like give yourself a value. Or, you know, should I landscape my backyard, or should I have somebody do it? You know, what's the value of what that time will do for you? And that's the reason why many people talk about like, well, what's your time worth? So if you dilute it and you're one of those 24/7 agents, then you're worth about $12 an hour, maybe. And so it just depends on what your priority time is worth. So I think that's the question that I'm kind of asking, Ben, is the priority time, which Tom alluded to that. So.
Right. Yeah, I'll have to think about that. I will tell everyone who might think you don't have a life or you can't sell 100 houses and have a life. I usually do leave the state 30 days a year. And not that I'm not working, but if you leave the state, you're really not in work mode. And I think most people with regular jobs don't get to take 30 vacation days out of the state. And I exercise every day, and I go to church, and I don't miss church services, and I don't miss the birthday parties, and I still have way too much time to blow watching Netflix. So in that regard, I don't be worried about my quality of life. It's great. And the dirty secret there is when people call you and say, you took such great care of my mom, would you please do the same for us? And you say, great, can I come over tomorrow? And they say, oh, we totally love that. It took about 3 seconds to generate that lead per se, but of course it's years of good care and note writing and stuff. But that's how you can generate, if you're generating quality people who are ready to trust you and do the things you say, you burn a whole lot less time looking for business and struggling to manage the people through what they're trying to do. So.
And people remember the experiences that you helped provide them versus the things that you gave them or the pictures that they saw of you on a billboard someplace, or a bus bench. I mean, I could ask all of you who you've ever seen on a bus bench, and you probably would come up with like, oh, well, every bus bench is this person, or every bus bench doesn't mean, it means nothing in reality. So I think these are incredible offerings. And so one last thing from each of you, Ben, Tom, on one piece of advice that you give to any agent that's been in the business for less than a year, of one thing, one action that they can take to improve their financial picture.
Go ahead, Ben.
I don't know if it was Buffini who said this quote or Dave Ramsey, or it was someone, not I. And I think the spirit of the quote was like, if you have your values already in place, making decisions is extremely easy and extremely efficient. Just like if I'm faced with something that's wrong and I shouldn't do, I don't have to waffle on the decision because I have my morals in place, and I just say, I won't do that, I won't watch that, I won't participate in that. I burnt no time making the decision. And I think when it comes to business and financial management and what you're going to spend, if you already have your values in place, it makes the decision real easy. And so it's real easy for me not to go buy a new car, not to go buy something that is meant to thrill myself, not to buy something that is meant to stroke my ego, or something that makes people look at me. Which I know a lot of agents, as they start to make money, they really start to spend money too. And the car becomes nicer, and the house becomes larger, and the clothes become more expensive. And I hope I can manage my ego all the way through real estate, but it makes it a lot easier to say no to things when you already have a value in place. Like, I don't need that. That's not helpful to my business. Even my time, the lender or title person who says, can I take you to lunch pre-COVID and waste 4 hours of your day and tell you about my title company. It's real easy to say, I have a great title company and lender I work with, so no, thank you. I don't have to even waver on the decision. I'm not misusing my time because I just have some certain values in place. And I think when it comes to money, it's just real easy to if you have values, you can manage your money a lot easier. I can save for retirement, save for taxes, not take that money and buy a new car and hope I save for taxes on the back end before they're due, because my values are in place to say you save for taxes first and then retirement, and you give yourself 30% of what's left, and then you only live within what that is. And I think I'm just good sticking to my principles, so it's probably easier said than done. But having the principles established makes life pretty easy to live, especially financially.
And I think it was
So I don't know
Brian
if that's a good
who quoted Zig Ziglar's making that statement. But Brian also added that if you want to know where your priorities lie and your values, look at your calendar and your checkbook. Tom, I'm gonna bring it up at the end here.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Ben's, your input has been incredible. Carol, piggybacking off Ben's stuff and back and forth. I just feel privileged to be here. It's been great. But I would just say this, keep the faith, perseverance. Nobody comes out of the chute, at their optimal financial position in real estate. Be true to the structure as it relates to your business development activities. Be true to the 10 hours a week. Make it happen. Time block the 2 hours. Invest in yourself. If you invest in yourself, absorb anything you can, get on every call you can, utilize every resource available to you, and don't lose the faith, because there is a pipeline building that you don't even see if you're doing the right things. You don't even know it, but it's out there. It's percolating. It takes time for these things to happen. So don't ever sell yourself short, and don't ever say you're not worthy, and don't ever get down on yourself, because at the end of the day, the only thing that knocks people out of this business is lack of time or perseverance to make it through the other side. That's the only thing. There's nothing in this business that is intellectually defeating to people. It's all about hard work, effort, and stick-to-itness. And if you do those things consistently, and you do your business plan, you rainmake, and you're good to people, and you tell the truth, and you're trustworthy, you too this can be whatever the promise it is to you. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, because I've been there and sat in that chair when it was difficult at the beginning, very difficult. And I know, just from the caliber of people that I see on this call, each and every one of you has the potential to reach incredible horizons. So believe in yourselves. Don't lose the faith. Be confident. Do the work. Do the business planning. When you don't want to sit down and write the notes, write 5 more. And it will all pay off in the end, I promise you, because you all have what it takes. So I just want you to be true to yourself and true to your commitment to yourself, and everything else will take care of itself. I believe that in my heart of hearts.
I want to add one thing to that, and I didn't say it this call, but I've said it other times when I've taught. It's if you do the right things long enough, it can't not work. I know that's a double negative, and that's real cute, but if it's true, if you do the right things long enough, it can't not work. I liken it to the person that wants to lose weight and change their lifestyle. If you eat the right foods long enough and you exercise each day faithfully, you can't not have results and lose inches and lose pounds. It's just physically impossible not to see a result. And I think it's so true in real estate. You do the right things long enough, it can't not work, but they have to be the right things. And a lot of people spend a lot of time doing not the right things. And the tip is the right things are writing people notes and calling them if you work up the courage to do so. Those are the right things. And then to do them long, and if you have to do them long enough, and 2 months is not always long enough, and 4 months and 6 months, and it may take 24 months. But if you do the right things and you do it long enough, you can't not be successful. I mean, it is a physical impossibility that you can't gain traction. So I know that doesn't sound as inspiring as what Tom said, but it's just factually true. So.
Okay. Any last comments, questions, anything that burning here? All right. Thank you so much, Ben and Tom, for joining us. And we'll see you next week. And interestingly, the class for 100 Days to Greatness next week is on money. So we're just going to continue this conversation. If all of you Ben, Tom, if all the rest of you, Raquel and Jean, who's joined us as mentors, want to come back and join us again, we'd love to have you. So I don't think we can talk long enough or hard enough about the financial side of this business, because that's how we ensure that we keep you guys here. And next year we look at this and you're still here. So, okay. And anybody who needs help with anything, you get a listing and it scares you, come and find one of the agents. We, the rest of us would be happy to help you and support you. So,
and if you have a listing and you're concerned about going to the living room and pitching it, call us.
Yeah.
I have never said I won't go. I will go on any listing presentation anytime, morning, noon, or night, 24/7, 365 days a year. I'll come in my pajamas. We will be there. I guarantee you. Nobody is going to let you fail. So don't ever be intimidated to ask for help. The only time that you'll disappoint anybody in this organization, from my perspective, is if you don't ask for help. That's the only thing that would disappoint us, is if you wouldn't take advantage of the opportunity that are in front of you. We don't know if you need something if you don't tell. I had a wonderful, I don't know if she's off the call. I think, oh no, there you are in the corner. You moved on me, Kathy. I had a wonderful conversation yesterday with Kathy, and we talked about a few things, the good, bad, and the ugly about real estate. And she asked me a couple things that I think we can do to provide some value moving forward. And I so appreciated that. So nobody's perfect. Nothing is perfect. We only get better and grow by learning from, things that people tell us. So we are here to help. This is an open dialogue. It's a two-way street. We work for you. Don't ever confuse yourself with that. We are 100% committed to you. I work for each and every one of you. There is no misunderstanding about that. It is my obligation to meet your needs, not vice versa. So we're always here to help. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Right.
Thanks all of
Thank
you.
you.
Big hug.
Yeah. Virtual hug, guys.
Virtual hug. Take care. Bye-bye.